Connor McDavid signed an 8-year contract with an annual salary of $12.5 million. The original rumor was he would sign at $13.25 million for 8 years. TSN's Bob McKenzie tweeted, "Original deal was expected to be $13.25 million, but hearing McDavid wasn't comfortable with the number and may have insisted on lowering it." You may be saying to yourself, well, that's good for McDavid. He's the better man in this situation. Generally, I would agree with that statement, except he only dropped $6 million in a league where there is a salary cap for a team that has been non-existent for several years. Edmonton fans might be happy for this signing, but let me tell you, so is the rest of the league's fans. Not because Edmonton is signing this amazing player, but because Edmonton will win less cups. I'm Joshua Kessner, and this is the Hockey Sense Podcast. Hello, as I said, I'm Joshua Kessner. This is the Hockey Sense Podcast. And, well, we're going to start off with McDavid, since that's what I decided to start off with. We're going to talk about it. It's the biggest news, in my opinion, of the entire league right now. There's other big news that's going on as well, but I really want to hit home on this because I really just feel like my thoughts and opinions are unique to this situation, and I feel that a lot of fans of McDavid's or fans of Edmonton would highly disagree with my opinion, so I figured I'd put my opinion out there and give something that's considered probably an opposing viewpoint. So, first off, I'm going to start off by let's bring this article in. We're going to talk about McDavid here. So, as you can see, this article is pulled from the NHL's website. You can find all these articles on the NHL's website. So here's the headline. Connor McDavid signs 8-year, $100 million extension with the Oilers. Contract for 20-year-old center will have an annual salary of $12.5 million, highest salary cap charge in the league. Now you might be saying to yourself, well, he kind of deserves it, doesn't he? Yeah, he does. But the question is, which would you rather have? Multiple Stanley Cups, lots of Stanley Cups, or $100 million in your pocket? The choice is yours. I mean, that's my honest opinion. There are so many teams so many players, I should say, who would want to come to Edmonton to play with a superstar like Connor McDavid and help him win multiple Stanley Cups. The problem is that when you sign someone to a $12.5 million annual salary, you take up so much cap space that those players don't want to come and play for you. So, here we go. Let's scroll down. Here's a picture of Connor McDavid if you haven't seen Connor McDavid before. Connor McDavid signed an 8-year, $100 million contract extension with the Edmonton Oilers on Wednesday. The contract, which will start in the 2018-2019 NHL season, will have an average annual salary of $12.5 million, which is the highest pending salary cap charge in the league. And then it goes on to say, "It's insane to really think about someone getting to pay me $100 million to do what I would do anyway on a regular day. It's insane," the 20-year-old center said. "It's very special, and to do that in Edmonton makes it even better." So McDavid's really happy about this $100 million coming into his wallet, apparently. Chicago Blackhawks forwards Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews each has a contract with a $10.5 million average annual salary, according to CapFriendly.com, which has the highest salary cap charge in the league. Montreal Canadiens goaltender Carey Price will have a salary cap charge of $10.5 million beginning in 2018-2019. So, I'd like to point out here, number one, that while the Chicago Blackhawks have won 3 Stanley Cups in 6 years, that they could have won more, because Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews took so much money. I think they could have won more. Players like Brandon Saad would have stayed. Johnny Oduya would have stayed. Patrick Sharp probably would have stayed. And even if they did get rid of them, they could have brought in players who would want to come and play for Chicago to win a Stanley Cup. So I'd like to point out, while they have 3 Stanley Cups in 6 years, they could have won more. In fact, they could have won 6 years. They could have won 6 cups in 6 years. In my honest opinion, they really could have. And when you have players like Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews taking up this much money, it hurts your salary cap. And Chicago has learned about this the hard way. Yes, they have won multiple Stanley Cups in 6 years, and they've done a good job at doing it. But look what happened to them this year. Now they're stuck in a rebuild because of salary cap issues. And yes, the expansion draft is a different story, but all this salary cap stuff is hurting, has hurt the Chicago Blackhawks, because they sign these players too high, in my opinion. Both Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews are probably the two, some of the best, I'm not going to say the best, but some of the best players in the NHL. And Chicago definitely deserves to pay them a good amount of money. But if I'm Patrick Kane or Jonathan Toews, I say, no, I want less money because I want to keep winning Stanley Cups. That's what should have been said. But now we're not getting this. Or Chicago's not doing that. And now they're stuck in a rebuild. And part of that is because of salary cap. And this is only a few years. This is somewhere down the road for the Edmonton Oilers, in my opinion. Honestly, that's what it's going to come down to. All right, let's continue. For me, it just makes me want to be better. It just makes me want to work harder, McDavid, the Oilers captain, said. You want to earn the money. You don't want to be somebody that signs a deal and kind of shuts it down. That's not going to be me at all. It's only driving me more. Listen, I don't care who you are. If you're in the NHL and this is your statement, your heart's in the wrong place. The NHL, for those who want to be in the NHL, their number one driving factor is winning a Stanley Cup. Plain and simple. There is nothing else to a player that is more important than the Stanley Cup. This statement right here makes me think that McDavid only cares about the money. That's what it makes me think of. This is something that should not be coming out of McDavid's mouth. Instead, he should be saying, yeah, okay, agreed. He wants to work harder. Kudos to him. I'll give him credit for that. But if the money is the reason that makes you want to work harder, then you're not doing it right. You should be saying, I want to work harder until I get that Stanley Cup and keep winning that Stanley Cup. That should be what McDavid is saying. That should be his motivation, not the amount of green money that's coming into his pocket. That should not be his motivation. McDavid has 1 season remaining on his 3-year entry contract. July 1st was the first day he was eligible to sign an extension. He could have become a restricted free agent after this season. You see guys go through the years where it's their contract year. I saw Stamkos go through it firsthand, and I know him pretty well, McDavid said of the Lightning captain, who played an entire season before signing right before becoming an unrestricted free agent last year. I don't think it's very fun. It's not fun to answer that question every day you come to the rink. Is there any updates? Is there any of this? For me, getting it done shows an early sign that I want to be here. There was no hesitation. It's not even a thought. I want to be here in Edmonton, and I think getting it done early shows that. That's not a question in my mind. He does want to stay in Edmonton. My question still remains, what is your motivation? That's my question for you. Because to me, my motivation still remains that you want to stay in Edmonton and you want to make lots of money. That's okay, that's great, but for everyone else in the league, they're saying, I want to win a Stanley Cup. That's what everyone else in the league is doing. If you're focused on the money, you're not going anywhere. That's not what the league is built for. The league is built for players who want to build Stanley Cups. I don't know what's going on with my hair today. Sorry, guys. All right, there we go. All right, last season, McDavid led the NHL with 100 points, 30 goals, 70 assists, and won the Hart Trophy as the most valuable player and the Ted Lindsay Award as the top player voted by the players. He helped the Oilers finish second in the Pacific Division and reach the Stanley Cup playoffs for the first time since 2006. Congratulations, but you still got beat by a Anaheim Ducks team who, while was better than you, did not have the drive or motivation to go and win a Stanley Cup. You still got beat by yes, experience, but also you got beat by players who were in it to win it for that series, but they didn't go anywhere after that. This McDavid got shut down in that series, plain and simple. You signed this guy because he helped you get to a Stanley Cup playoffs. And then when he gets to a team that's relatively challenging, he gets shut down. 100% shut down. I mean, he had a couple goals in that series, but still, he was shut down pretty much. He came into the league to be a goal scorer, and he helped on plays, but I mean, Leon Draisaitl was their main goal scorer for the entire series that round. So I don't know. He did help them do this, but my point in bringing this up is to say this is the NHL, and when you get to the Stanley Cup playoffs, your goal should not be, oh, I'm making $100 million. You shouldn't be saying to yourself, I'm making $100 million. You should be saying to yourself, I want that medal cup in my hands. I want the Stanley Cup in my hands. That's what's motivating all these teams throughout the league. Should be the same for you. I think people should want to come here and come play here, McDavid said. Well, good luck with that, because you just took up so much salary cap space. It's a very up-and-coming team, and we showed last year that we're capable of. We're only going to get better. We're still a young team, and our young guys are only going to keep getting better. Yeah, that's if you don't push them out of a team because you signed such a high amount of money for a contract. You have to understand, McDavid, money doesn't just ebb and flow like out of nowhere. Like, this is something that the Edmonton Oilers have to manage their money. This is something that Edmonton has to do. This is an incredibly naive comment to make right here. Because for you to say this and then sign the highest contract in the rest of the league, listen, okay, Montreal has problems signing people. Chicago has problems signing people. Do you honestly think that because you have all this ability, that players are just going to want to come and play for you and take a huge salary cut just to play with you? That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. I mean, this is not worth your time. I mean, if you're a player and you see this, you're like, well, I'm not going to go play for them now. I could go play with so many other teams who have just as good a chance of winning a Stanley Cup as the Edmonton Oilers. In fact, maybe even better. For example, the Nashville Predators. Nick Bonino of the Pittsburgh Penguins just signed with the Nashville Predators. I mean, Nashville's going to be an extremely tough team to play next year. I mean, so is Dallas. I think Chicago will actually be tough next year as well. I don't think they're going to be just a pansy team that just dies on the ice during the playoffs. St. Louis will also be a tougher team. I don't think they'll win a Stanley Cup, but they'll be a tough team to get it, to play against. What about Anaheim? I think Anaheim's still going to come back and play hard. San Jose. San Jose is going to do the same thing. What about teams in the East? We got the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're going to come back. They're just as young as you are. And in fact, while they didn't get as far as you, I thought they played against a way more experienced team, a way more loaded team on that matter, and they played that team much better under a very good head coach, under Mike Babcock. What about let's talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins. I mean, while they're probably not going to win a Stanley Cup this next year. They're not going to three-peat probably, but they're still going to be a threat in the league. I mean, they still have as good of a chance as any when it gets to the Stanley Cup playoffs. I don't think they'll win a Stanley Cup, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, we're talking about this past year, we watched the Nashville Predators, who are a wild card seed, go all the way to the Stanley Cup final. I mean, my point in saying that is that the rest of the league is pretty balanced. And your motivation here should be to say, I want to be better than the rest of the teams in this league. I want to be better than everyone. And money shouldn't be your motivation. Your motivation should be the Stanley Cup, because that's what the rest of the league is doing. That's what all these teams who have won Stanley Cups or gotten to Stanley Cup finals have done. They've pushed themselves and said, we want to win a Stanley Cup. It's not about the money. We want to win the Stanley Cup. That's what it comes down to. This is a very naive comment for you to make. You need to understand that. And because of that, all these teams, listen, all these players, like I said, they could say, I want to go to Pittsburgh, or I want to go to Nashville. All of these teams have just as good of a chance of winning a Stanley Cup as you do. That's pretty much what it comes down to. And yes, you played pretty well for being a young team against an experienced Anaheim Ducks team. Yeah, that's true. And that's a very accurate thing to say. But here's what it comes down to. I think people should want to come and play here. People don't care about where they play. People care about winning the Stanley Cup. That's what players, the true players in the league, that's what they want to do. They want to win a Stanley Cup. That's really what it comes down to. It's not about where you play. It's about winning a Stanley Cup. Plain and simple. And there's so many other teams in the league that can do this. All right, let's move on. Enough of my rant. All right, McDavid has 148 points, 46 goals, 102 assists in 127 NHL games. He was the number one pick in the 2015 NHL draft. It happens fast, McDavid said. I think back to 2 years ago. I was at the very development camp that's going on in Jasper. It was only 2 years ago, and now this. It happens very fast, and you have to take it in stride and learn to run with it. Accurate statement. The extension was the top priorities for the Oilers this offseason. General Manager Peter Chiarelli said in May. Oh, he said this in May. Initial reports have put the value of the contract at $106 million, which would have been an average annual salary of $13.25 million, which I brought up earlier. That was the rumor that everyone was talking about. This may be one of the largest contracts ever given in the NHL, but I assure you, it could easily have been a lot higher in value and shorter in term, Chiarelli said. Building a team to win a Stanley Cup was a constant discussion point at this negotiation. Was it? Was it? I swear, what is the management of the Edmonton Oilers doing? Okay, listen. Wait, there's a couple of things that the Oilers could have done here. Number one, they could have let McDavid's contract ride out. That's what they could have done. And then signed him at the end of that. Number two, what they could have done was they could have signed him now, but signed him for less money. I mean, that's a completely fair thing to do. I mean, let's be honest here, okay? Taves and Kane had already won a Stanley Cup when they were signed. Like, when they signed that large contract. They had already won a Stanley Cup. And they were already star players who had won a Stanley Cup for that team. I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve the money because he is a star player for the Edmonton Oilers. Like, he deserves to have some money in his pocket. But my question still remains, why would you pay him this much money? Sidney Crosby isn't making this much money. And he's considered the best player in the league by many people. So why are we doing this? Why are we playing this weird game where it's like money, the amount of money I pay this person equals Stanley Cup? This is not how the rest of the league works. That's not how people go in and sign people. They're like, if I pay you more money, I win a Stanley Cup. That's not how that works. This is, I don't know what you're thinking, but this is asinine. Completely asinine. Forward Leon Draisaitl became a restricted free agent July 1st. And Chiarelli told the Oilers website Saturday that they would match any offer sheet Draisaitl might receive from another team. Really? I don't know what to say to this other than why. Listen, okay, Leon Draisaitl is a good player, but does salary cap mean nothing to you? Literally, does salary cap mean nothing to the Edmonton Oilers? Salary cap should mean something to the Edmonton Oilers. I don't know what is going on here in Edmonton, but salary cap should be a word that is thrown around and saying, listen, this will eat up so much of our salary cap space. And it'll eat up this much of our salary cap space, and we need this to sign this player, this player, this player, this player, right? That should be what's going on. Not this. Draisaitl's a good player, and understandably, he was brought in to play against the big boys of the Pacific Division. And he should, listen, Leon Draisaitl deserves to be signed by the Edmonton Oilers. If they want to win a Stanley Cup or get close to winning a Stanley Cup, at least one, they need to sign him. Because the big boys of the Pacific Division, the Anaheim Ducks, the San Jose Sharks, the LA Kings, those teams will dominate you if you don't. So it's understandable they want to sign him. There are so many different ways you can go about it. You don't want to get into the details of it. It doesn't really matter how we got here, McDavid said. What? Yes, it does matter how you got there. All that matters is that we're here and we go to the deal. We go the deal done. We got the deal done. And I'm here for the next 9 years, and that's all that matters. Again, I'm going to repeat myself. Stanley Cup should be your motivation, not where you're at, not how much money you're making. I think he's just interviewing to interview at this point. But the problem is that he's being honest. He's not lying about this. I think the main thing is you only get one career and you need to make the most money you can. And any player will tell you that. You need to take care of yourself and look after yourself and your family and those around you. I think obviously $100 million is more than enough to do that. But at the same time, you want to be a part of a winning team. You want to win, and I think it's a number that's pretty reasonable. Again, you're so naive. This is incredibly naive. Incredibly naive. $100 million is more than enough to do that. Okay? So lower your money. But this is pretty reasonable. If you want to win, you want to be a part of a winning team. I think McDavid thinks he's the whole team. That's kind of what this comment makes me think. I think McDavid kind of thinks he's the whole team. I think he's cocky and thinks he's the whole team. He needs to understand this is the NHL. This is not the NBA. This is the NHL. Superstar players are very important to the league, but they are not going to be players that carry teams to win Stanley Cups. In fact, I've seen multiple teams that win because their team as a whole is just better. For example, last year's Pittsburgh's Penguins, right? All right. Sidney Crosby was one of the best players in the playoffs that year. So was Matt Murray. Right? Those two players were outstanding. What about Christopher Letang? What about Phil Kessel? What about Nick Bonino? What about Carl Hagelin? See, all of these, I'm listing off a lot of different players here, and I'm doing that to prove my point that this was done as a team. The team won the Stanley Cup. In fact, the third line of the Pittsburgh Penguins that year was the most dominant line in the entire playoffs. The third line, not the first line, the third line. That's the line with Bonino, Hagelin, and Kessel. We're not talking about Sidney Crosby or Evgeny Malkin. We're not talking about those players. We're talking about Bonino, Kessel, and Hagelin. The third line of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And Sidney Crosby is considered the best player in the league. You see, this is the mindset that needs to come into Connor McDavid if he wants to win Stanley Cups. And I say cups is in plural because the Oilers have the ability to win multiple. Will they? We'll find out. But they have the ability. He needs to understand that money does not equal Stanley Cups. At least money going into his pocket does not equal Stanley Cups. Money being spread throughout the team equals Stanley Cups. Because you'll bring players in who are like, oh, they have a lot of money. They can spend some money on me. And I'm willing to come and play here. Players who have experience. Players who are good. Players who are willing to play for Edmonton. This hurts your team. It does not help your team. Not only does the salary cap hurt your team, but your comments hurt the team. That's my comment to that. So, off this little downer note and little rant we have about Connor McDavid, let's move on. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about, I want to talk about trades. So we're going to talk trades here. So, the trades, that have happened have been kind of interesting. We'll talk about free agency here in a minute. We're going to talk about free agency and we're going to talk about some of the star players that are still free agents. Also, I have some retirement news on a player that we'll talk about here at the end. All right. So we're going to go through the trade tracker pretty quickly because I want to talk more in depth on the free agents. So I'm going to start down here, right here at the June 22nd mark. So the New York Islanders acquired Jordan Eberle from the Edmonton Oilers in exchange for Ryan Strome. Interesting move. Eberle was actually somewhat productive for the Edmonton Oilers. This is actually a good move for the Islanders. The Islanders definitely could use a player like Jordan Eberle. Ryan Strome was I think this is a downgrade for the Oilers, but it's a good upgrade for the Islanders. Montreal Canadiens acquired David Schlemko from the Vegas Golden Knights. This is very interesting. So the Vegas Golden Knights have, when they did the expansion draft, I'm like, oh, they picked some pretty solid players, decent team, definitely playoff worthy, but not like, I don't know where they would land in a Stanley Cup position, but playoff worthy. They picked some players that I was like, you should have picked from this player instead of this player for your team, but interesting draft for them. The weird thing is all these players that they're drafting, they're trading away, and I'm really baffled by this as to why they're doing this. I understand that you want youth, and they got a decent amount of picks and stuff for the future, but this was now they're like overdoing it, in my opinion. They're getting a lot of draft picks, but then they're just trading away experienced players because they want draft picks. So I'm kind of baffled as to what Vegas is doing here. I think it's a little over the top. I'm okay with them trading some of their players, but what they should be doing is saying, I want this player for this player, instead of just getting draft picks back, because they have to have a team. So, I don't know. With how they've been running this, they're not going to be a very dominant team in the league, in my opinion. Arizona Coyotes acquire Jarmelson from the Blackhawks in exchange for Connor Murphy and forward Laurent Dauphin. So basically Chicago gets a 2-for-1. But Arizona gets Jarmelson, who has won a Stanley Cup with the Chicago Blackhawks. Overall, this is a win for Chicago, and a win for Arizona. This was a big trade here. The June 23rd trade here. Blue Jackets acquire Artemi Panarin, Tyler Mott, and a 2017 6th-round draft pick from the Chicago Blackhawks in exchange for Brandon Saad, Anton Forsberg, and a 2018 5th-round draft pick. So, very interesting. Very, very interesting statement here. Or trade, I guess I should say, not statement. Point being, I don't have a whole lot to say to this except for the fact that I'm not really quite sure why they're getting rid of Artemi Panarin. Tyler Mott, I can kind of understand. Brandon Saad, getting him back is good. I understand you have to get somebody back in return for Artemi Panarin, so they picked Brandon Saad. Decent pickup. Good player. One of the reasons they won the Stanley Cup in 2015. In fact, I still pin him as the reason they won a Stanley Cup in 2015. Anton Forsberg, not quite sure how he'll play in the Chicago lineup, but probably will play well. Overall, I'm not really sure who wins here. In my opinion, the Chicago Blackhawks, they need Panarin and Saad to win a Stanley Cup. Granted, they got some other players to help that out, but Forsberg's good, Saad's good, Panarin's good. I don't know. It'll be interesting. Maybe Forsberg will pick up the slack where Panarin left off. Granted, Panarin really only played well because of Kane. I mean, you put any forward on a line with Kane, and they're going to probably play well. But they did have some outstanding chemistry together. So, but overall, interesting trade here. Another interesting trade. Rangers acquire Anthony DeAngelo and a 2017 first-round pick from the Coyotes in exchange for Derek Stepan and Antti Ranta. Whew! All right. As a Rangers fan, I kind of like Derek Stepan as a person. As a player last year, he played absolutely horrendous. He played terrible. Not worth the money he was being paid. Good move by the Rangers. Derek Stepan's out of his prime. He just is. I feel bad for Ranta, but I understand the move. Good move by the Rangers to pick up Anthony DeAngelo, a solid defensive player, and a 2017 first-round pick. Pretty good. Overall, this is a win for the Rangers. Loss for the... Well, I shouldn't say a lot. It's actually a win for the Coyotes because what they lack is experience. And Derek Stepan and Antti Ranta both have experience. Columbus Blue Jackets acquire Jordan Schroeder from Minnesota Wild in exchange for Dante Salituro. No idea. Couple no names to me. Chicago Blackhawks and trades for picks for picks. St. Louis acquires Braden Shen from the Philadelphia Flyers for Yori Laterra, a 2017 first-round pick, and a conditional 18 first-round pick. Ugh. This is a win for the Blues here. Braden Shen's a good player, and I feel bad for Philadelphia for having to get rid of him. But at the same time, Braden Shen's a good player. Definitely will help out St. Louis. Not enough to help them win a Stanley Cup, in my opinion, but definitely will help them out. Pittsburgh Penguins acquire Ryan Reeves from the St. Louis Blues for Oscar Sundqvist. This is a win for Pittsburgh. If they can keep Reeves under control, it's a win for Pittsburgh. Reeves can get a little heated at times, and he loses his mind, and he'll just start fighting for no reason. That's how I've always viewed him, and I actually thought he was more of a hindrance for the St. Louis Blues than anything. But, I mean, St. Louis gets a young player back in Sundqvist. I think it's a win for Pittsburgh because they're trying to rebuild from all the players they're going to be losing here. It's also a win for St. Louis because it helps with their rebuild. Or with building their team, I guess. They're not rebuilding, but with building their team. Trading picks for picks. Blue Jackets acquire a 2017 pick for Keegan Colasar. Ooh. No idea who that is, and I don't know. It's a stupid move by Vegas, in my opinion. Edmonton, pick for pick. All right. Calgary acquires Travis Hamonic and a 4th-round pick from the Islanders and the Islanders get picks. Interesting move. We'll see how this plays out. Hamonic was a decent player for the Islanders. Pick for pick. 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 All right, here's an interesting trade. Dallas Stars acquire Mark Mathot from the Vegas Golden Knights for goalie Dylan Ferguson and a 2020 second-round pick. Okay, so this is one of the things that I was referencing earlier with Vegas, okay? Mark Mathot, one of the best players for the Ottawa Senators this year in the playoffs, was picked up by the Vegas Golden Knights. And I have to say that overall, that was one of the best picks they made all night. Not the best pick, but one of the best picks they made all night. So, my question is, why would you get rid of him? Why? Literally, why would you get rid of him? And they just give him to the Dallas Stars. Why? This is a dumb move in my opinion. Unless Mark Mathot said, I don't want to be here. That I could understand. I don't want to play for Vegas. And they're like, all right, let's get you to Dallas. Right? The problem is, Dallas is now like a threat. Like a legit threat. A couple of years ago, they were an offensive threat. And we're like, they were like first in the Central Division and for the regular season. And I never thought they would win the Stanley Cup because I was like, they're too offensive-minded and not enough defensive-minded. They're like the opposite of the Montreal Canadiens, right? The Montreal Canadiens are so defensive-minded that they have no offense, right? They're the opposite. They just combine your teams and you'll be good. No. But the Dallas Stars now, with the pickup of Ben Bishop, Mark Mathot on defense, I mean, you know, they're picking up some very solid players, the Dallas Stars are. And I might end up becoming a fan of Dallas here in a little bit because Dallas was a team that bugged me for a while because they're so blue collar. But now they're picking up players who are actually good. And on top of that, they pick players like Spezza, Jamie Benn, and you know, you have of course you know, all the offensive power as a whole from the Dallas Stars just coming in together. I don't know. It's Dallas is going to be a threat for the Central Division this upcoming season. And I say that they're going to be the new rival for the Chicago Blackhawks in the playoffs, in my opinion. They're going to outplay the St. Louis Blues hardcore. They're just going to outplay them. And with the pickup like this, man, Dallas, you're going to give a threat. Be a big, big threat for the Central Division. So, and the rest of the league, but you get my point. Plus, with Ken Hitchcock on your side, pretty good pickup for a coach. We'll see if that translates into playoff wins, but obviously a coach who can coach, legitimately coach. I've yet to see him coach well in the playoffs, but as a regular season coach, he's pretty good. So, pretty good. Get some status to your name and help you guys bring more players in. Definitely. Good for Dallas, bad for Vegas. Very, very bad for Vegas. All right, the Calgary Flames acquire Eddie Lack and defenseman Ryan Murphy from the Carolina Hurricanes for Keegan Kanzig. I think they got rid of Eddie Lack because they were just like, we have Darling. We picked up Scott Darling. I don't know. I'm not quite sure why they did this. This is more of a win for Calgary than it is for Carolina. Buffalo Sabres acquire Jason Pominville, defenseman Scandella, and a 4th-round pick from the Wild for Tyler Ennis, Marcus Foligno. Buffalo wins. Straight up, they just win. Not bad picks for Minnesota, but Buffalo wins this for player, I mean. Now, Minnesota probably will do more with their players, but that's just because of the coach behind the bench. But neither of them are going to be winning Stanley Cups, most likely. I say that now. Tampa Bay Lightning acquire, however you say that name, from the New York Islanders for the rights for Kristers Goldlevikis, however you say that name too. It's just minor league player trading. Colorado Avalanche acquire Colin Wilson from the Nashville Predators. Win for Colorado. Detroit acquire that guy from the Flames. Again, pick for, minor league player. Nashville acquires Alexei Emelin from the Vegas Golden Knights for a 3rd-round pick. Here's another trade from the Vegas Golden Knights. Should not have gotten rid of Alexei Emelin. Why? Why are you getting rid of these players for picks? For picks. I don't know. Win for Nashville. Holy cow, they're going to be loaded next year. Win for Nashville. Big loss for Vegas again. Vegas acquires Marcus Kruger from the Chicago Blackhawks for future considerations. This was one of those things where it was like, oh, okay, maybe they're actually like trying to get some players back that they, for whatever reason. Okay, decent pickup, right? New Jersey Devils acquire Marcus Johansson from the Washington Capitals for the 2018 2nd-round pick. All right, good pickup for the New Jersey Devils. Decent trade for the Capitals. I mean, unfortunately the Capitals need to get rid of Ovi. That's the problem. They need to get rid of Ovechkin. These players are way better than Ovechkin is. Washington could be so stacked. Really, they could be if they got rid of Ovechkin. That's my opinion. All right. Now, here, remember that statement I said about, they're trying to pick up players, the Vegas Golden Knights. Yeah, this changes here. July 4th. So this was really recently, 5 days ago. Carolina Hurricanes acquire Marcus Kruger from the Vegas Golden Knights for a 2018 5th-round pick. Okay, listen. The Carolina Hurricanes have picked up so many good players who are former Chicago Blackhawks. They re-signed Justin Williams, who helped them win a Stanley Cup before. They're going to be decent out of the East this upcoming year. Not going to be great. They're going to be decent. I'll give them credit. They're going to be decent. What the crap is Vegas doing, though? This is a good move by Carolina. Terrible move by Vegas. I don't know what the crap this is. This is a terrible move. So, I don't know. And here's a picture of Marcus Johansson for you from when he was in Washington. I don't know what the crap Vegas is doing. Good moves, some good moves, some bad news. Or bad moves. I think the biggest moves were the Chicago-Columbus trade between Panarin and Saad. I think those are the biggest. That was the biggest trade. Second biggest would probably be D'Angelo for the Rangers, or going to the Rangers. That was a pretty big trade as well. Also, Mark Mathot from Vegas to the Dallas Stars. Another big trade. All right. Enough about that. Let's move on. Speaking of trades, we're going to move on and we're going to talk about unrestricted free agents here. So, let's start off. And the reason we're going to start off with this is because this article is a tad old from it's July 5th was the last time it was updated. So these are the best remaining unrestricted free agents since July 5th, from what I see. All right. So they have their own little thing. Jaromir, we're going to start with the forwards, all right? So Jaromir Jagr of Florida. Why has this guy not been signed yet? That's my question. Florida should be jumping all over this. If you're another team and you're seeing Florida's not jumping all over this, then jump on it. Teams like, for example, the New York Rangers could actually sign him because he's actually pretty good. And he would help your team out a lot, I think. The other thing is, teams out west could actually use him. For example, the Anaheim Ducks, LA Kings, or San Jose Sharks could actually use him pretty well. He's a big player. He plays the body well. He's got some good hands on him. He's a 20 to 30 goal scorer. Heck, for example, if you're the Anaheim Ducks and you put him on a line with Ryan Getzlaf and Patrick Eaves and put them together on a line, you're gonna have a pretty decent lineup. I mean, the other thing is you could put him on make him a third line winger and be pretty good. He's a good player. In my opinion, I liked him in Florida. I like Jaromir Jagr as a player in general, but in Florida, he's one of the best players to go through Florida's system, in my opinion. I think he should stay in Florida, honestly. I really do. But I don't think that'll happen. I think he will. I think teams are looking to see if they can pick him up. Here's the question, and this is the thing that teams are looking for. Yager's a Stanley Cup champion, and he's got some age and experience on him. The problem is he's out of his prime. That's what teams are worried about. And I can understand that. However, you're talking Jaromir Jagr. The dude's an ageless wonder. Just sign him. That's my opinion. I think that maybe teams like Nashville could sign him. Teams that use the body a lot, I think, have the best chance of, or the best use for him, I should say. Florida didn't really have a whole lot of that. They had more of that, but than some teams, but not a whole lot of it. Anaheim honestly should sign him. I think Anaheim should sign him. He could win a third Stanley Cup with Anaheim. He really could. He really could. He's got some size to him. He's got some speed. He would provide a little bit of that speed factor that Anaheim wants. And he's got good hands. He's got really good hands. Plus, you pair him with the experience of Ryan Getzlaf, Corey Perry, and put him with Ryan Kessler. I mean, those three, plus you add Jaromir Jagr into that lineup. Holy cow, that's a good lineup. Holy cow, Anaheim, please sign him. I know, I'm being wishful. No, but Anaheim could sign him. LA could sign him, although my guess is Jagr wants to sign with a team that's going to win a Stanley Cup. I could see him signing with Chicago. Chicago would be a good team I could see him signing with. Let's see. I could see him signing with Montreal, although I don't think Montreal is probably a good suit for him. He could re-sign with Boston. He could be an Islander. I'm trying to think of... people have said he could go to Edmonton. I could kind of see it. Here's my problem. Is with McDavid being McDavid, that's the problem. And I don't think Jagr wants to do that. So I could be wrong. He could go to San Jose. They just lost Patrick Marleau. He could be a good fit there. He could go to Toronto. Provide some experience to the young guns who are there with Austin Matthews and all of them. Plus, he could be in a lineup with Patrick Marleau. Holy cow, that would be a really good lineup with him. Frederik Andersen in net. You got some decent defenders in behind you. Holy cow, it'd be a good place to go. Jagr has a lot of places he could go. The question is he willing to drop money just to play? I think Anaheim would sign him. Or could sign him. I think Toronto could sign him. So many teams could sign him. Yager's a good player. Somebody should please sign him. He's a good player. He's worth the money. I know people are like, well, he's out of his prime. Yeah, he's not a 50-goal scorer, but he can still put 30 goals up, and he might not be a first-line player, but holy cow, he's a third-line player for sure. He's better than some of the third-line players that are in the league right now. He's better than the fourth-line players that are in the league right now. I mean, sign him. Thomas Vanek, from Florida. This is interesting because he's a pretty good player in my opinion. And Florida's got some unrestricted free agents that apparently they're not signing. So good player overall. We'll see what happens to him. Jerome Iginla of the LA Kings. Now this is a player who makes me kind of just wonder if he should just retire. I don't know. That's my opinion. I think he's way out of his prime. Way out of his prime. He's not like Jaromir Jagr, where Jagr is still producing. I don't know. That's my opinion. Maybe he'll stay in the league. I think he should just retire. Shane Doan. I think Doan goes to a Stanley Cup worthy team. I think that's where he goes. He's been with Winnipeg and the Coyotes for his whole career. He's been a solid player. He's 40 years old. Decent player. We'll see who signs him though. Drew Stafford of Boston. Here's the problem. He's not a point producer. That's the problem. We'll find out what happens to him, but some of these players should just retire probably. Victor Stahlberg of Ottawa. Stahlberg played with the Rangers for a little bit. He also played with a lot of other players. He won a Stanley Cup in Chicago. Good player, or decent player, I should say. Well, I think he might be worthy to keep around for a little bit. All right, let's move on to defensemen. Andrei Markov. Defensemen are different than forwards. Forwards need to score goals and produce points that way. Defensemen just need to play defense. Andrei Markov could be picked up by anybody, in my opinion. Good player, good defensive player. Brian Campbell. I think he tries to stay in the league. I think he tries to stay with the Chicago Blackhawks. Johnny Oduya, again, I think he tries to stay with Chicago. Mark Streit, decent player for Pittsburgh. Other teams could easily pick him up. Roman Polak, I think he stays with Toronto. Either that or he goes to a team like Tampa Bay, like a speedy team like that. Cody Franzen, I think he moves from Buffalo, but I'm not quite sure where he would go. Francois Beauchemin. Okay, here's the thing. I watched Beauchemin play. Good player, great defensive player, but he's way out of his prime. Way out of his prime. I think he just retires or he stays in Colorado. Goalie, Jonas Enroth. Okay. Just no. He's not going to stay in Anaheim. He's probably going to get traded or something like that. All right. So those are all the top players. Keep in mind, that's old. So we're going to go and move to the actual free agent signings here. So some of those players might have moved here. I keep in mind, I have not looked at this at all as of late. I have not. So we'll see what happens here. We're gonna go through this team by team. That's how we're gonna do it. So we're just gonna go through the signed players. We're not gonna go through any of the unsigned or unrestricted free agents or anything like that. We're just gonna go through the signed stuff. Okay. So I'll tell you if it's good or bad. And key players that were signed. All right, let's start off. Anaheim. All right, key player right here. Ryan Miller signed a 2-year contract with the Ducks. Holy cow. Good move. Very, very good move. In fact, Ryan Miller has a good enough experience. I think he could be the starting goaltender while Gibby starts to try and get his act back together. I don't know what happened last season, but he struggled in my opinion. Granted, the team struggled in front of him, but Ryan Miller, great goaltender. Great goaltender. Worth the sign. Could win a Stanley Cup with him on the team. 100%. Steve Oleski, Dan Grant, Mike Liambas, Scott Sawburn. I think these are all minor league team players. Outside of Steve Oleski. Yeah. Goaltender Retro Berra signs 1-year contract with the Ducks. I think this is more of a AHL move, trying to get a goaltender to go to the AHL. Forward Dennis Rasmussen signs 1-year contract with the Ducks. Very good move right here. Former Chicago Blackhawk. Not an outstanding Blackhawk by any stretch of the imagination, but definitely a good player. Arizona Coyotes. Let's move on to them. Clendening, Adam Clendening signs 1-year contract with the Coyotes. Good move. Nick Cousins signs 2-year contract with the Coyotes. Good move. Zach Ronaldo, Michael Sislo, Andrew Campbell, and John Hanley sign contracts with the Coyotes. Good move by some of these players. Excuse me. Michael Lotta signs 1-year contract with the Coyotes. Emerson Edom signs 1-year contract with the Coyotes. Good move. I think the biggest one is Adam Clendening. Second would be Emerson Edom. Boston Bruins. All right, so this will be interesting. Forward Kenny Agostino, Jordan Schwartz, and Paul Postma signed 1-year contracts with the Bruins. Here's my question with the Bruins. What? You need to sign more players. I don't know what's going on here. Granted, we got a little bit of time before October, but more needs to be done if you're Boston. Buffalo Sabres. Benoit Pouliot signs 1-year contract with the Sabres. Chad Johnson signs 1-year contract with the Sabres. Matt Tennyson signs 2-year contract. Seth Griffith signs 1-year contract. Jacob Jofferson, 1-year contract. Adam Wilcox, Kevin Porter, Kyle Crisculo signed 2-year contracts. All right, biggest signing here, Benoit Pouliot. The rest are They're players. Could be big players in the future, but right now. Calgary Flames. Marek Hivrik signs 1-year contract, and Luke Gazdick signs 1-year contract. Decent signings. Hivrik is a decent signing. That's the biggest out of these two, in my opinion. Carolina. Okay, so they made some really impressive moves here. Justin Williams signs a 2-year contract with the Hurricanes. I'm surprised he went there. I would have for sure thought he went to like New York or something. Islanders, Rangers, maybe Montreal. I don't know. That was my thought process. Forward Josh Juris agrees to terms with the Hurricanes. Good move. Brendan Kitchon agrees to terms with the Hurricanes. Good, decent move, I guess I should say. Dennis Robertson agrees to terms. Decent move. And Jeremy Smith. Yeah, this on top of all the trades that they made, very good for the Hurricanes, in my opinion. Patrick Sharp, we're moving on to Chicago, by the way. Patrick Sharp signs 1-year contract with the Blackhawks. Good move by Chicago. Tommy Wingles, a former San Jose Shark, signs 1-year contract with the Blackhawks. Very good move. Berube, a goaltender former for the Islanders, agrees to 2-year contract with the Blackhawks. Decent move. Will never replace Scott Darling. Defenseman Jordan, however you say that name, agrees to 2-year contract with the Blackhawks. And Lance Boma agrees to terms with the Blackhawks. Overall, best move, probably Tommy Wingles here. Second best would be Patrick Sharp. That's my opinion. Tommy Wingles' only reason is he's young, and he could get some work done for the Chicago Blackhawks. All right, Colorado Avalanche. Jonathan Bernier signed him. So he was with Anaheim this past season. Forward Agozino, defenseman Warsofsky, goaltender Kanata signed contracts with the Avalanche. I have no idea who those players are, so they're probably AHL players. And Nail Yakupov signs 1-year contract with the Avalanche. This is actually a good move for the Avalanche. Yakupov is a decent player. Not amazing player, but a decent player. This is a good move for the Avalanche. Columbus Blue Jackets. So remember, they have Artemi Panarin now and Tyler Mott from the Chicago Blackhawks. So they have Cameron Gauntz and Andre Benoit. Maybe. I don't know how to say that name. Point being, these are I have no idea who these players are, actually. So they're probably AHL players. That's kind of how I view it. If I don't know who you are, you're probably an AHL player. All right. Dallas Stars. Woo! This is a list for sure. All right, let's start off here. Martin Hanzal, great player for the Minnesota Wild, signs with the Dallas Stars. Patrick Nemeth signs with the Dallas Stars. Pretty good pick. Alexander Radulov, the forward that was like dominant for the Montreal Canadiens. Yeah, he signs with the Dallas Stars. What a job by the Dallas Stars. Brett Regner signs 1-year contract with the Stars. Woo! Decent pick. Probably. I mean, I don't really know who he is, but my guess is probably like an AHL player, but still decent. Brian Flynn signs 1-year contract with the Stars. No idea who you are. Pretty good. Tyler Pitlick signs 3-year contract with the Stars. No idea who you are. Probably an AHL player. I don't know who McKinney is. Brett Ritchie signs 2-year contract with the Stars. Pretty good. Also keep in mind, Ben Bishop is also on this team. Alexander Radulov. And like I said earlier, they picked up the former defenseman from Ottawa, who was traded from Vegas. Sorry, the word is blanking on me. So just overall, what Dallas is going to be such a threat. If you're not going to be if you're looking for a team to follow, Dallas might be your team because they have a good chance of winning a Stanley Cup, in my opinion. These are all players that they are trying to have or whatever. All right, Detroit. Detroit. The shell of a team known as Detroit. Trying to rebuild after Pavel Datsuk's really hard. So, all right, here we go. Trevor Daley signs 3-year contract with the Red Wings. Actually a pretty good pickup. Just won 2 Stanley Cups in a row with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Pretty good defenseman. Good pickup for Detroit. Xavier Olette, no idea who you are. Luke Witkowski, no idea who you are either. Trevor Daley's the best pickup here. Edmonton Oilers. All right. I'm going to be straight with you. This is why they have so many other players that they could have signed. I mean, look. All right, here. I'm going to highlight one. David Desharnais signs with the New York Rangers, which was a good pickup by the Rangers, by the way. Terrible play for the Edmonton Oilers. Why? Because they signed Connor McDavid to that outlandish contract. All right. Oh, Osterley signed with Chicago. He's a former Edmonton Oiler. There you go. Probably why I've never really heard of him. Okay. So, all right. Biggest contract here is Jussi Jokinen. Oh, really? They signed Callahan. So Callahan from the Tampa Bay Lightning apparently signs with them. So that's a pretty good pick. Yeah, Callahan's another good one. Yeah, Callahan and Jokinen. It's one of those two. Interesting pickup. Callahan's actually a pretty good pickup. Surprised he signed with them. Florida Panthers. Florida's an interesting story because I think they could be doing so much more and they're not doing enough. And it's really bugging me because I kind of like Florida. I like Florida and I like Tampa. I know they're rivals, but I like both teams. And I would like to see Florida do a lot better and be Stanley Cup threats because I think they can be. But right now they're just like, they're just not there. All right, so Verbata is a pretty good deal. Let's see, Petrovic is a pretty good deal, and Physics is pretty good too. These are all like minor players. They're not star players or anything. I'm kind of wondering what they're trying to do with Yager. Yager might be their biggest hiccup because Yager might be asking for too much money for them. And they might be in an honest rebuild at this point. We'll find out what happens here, but Yager, if Yager doesn't sign here, then Florida is probably going to go into a full rebuild. That's how I look at it, at least. The LA Kings. LA's had some problems over the years. And with the firing of head coach Sutter, and just getting rid of some much needed players, they've slowly but surely become less and less of a threat. This year, they might be more of a threat if they continue their rebuild. We will find out here. So, Camilleri signs a 1-year contract with the Kings. That's a good pickup. Christian Folin, Darcy Kumper, and Nick Shore. Camilleri is the biggest sign here. Minnesota Wild. Nicholas Svedberg, Swedish player. Decent goaltender, probably. I don't know. Probably for a backup or an AHL player. Kyle Quincy. This is a good pickup. Kyle Raw. I don't know who you are. Landon Ferraro. Cal O'Reilly. Again, I don't know who Cal O'Reilly is. Mike Riley. And Grant. Kyle Quincy's the biggest one here. That's how I look at it. All right. Montreal. Carl Alsner, good pickup. Hemsky is a good pickup. And Galchenyuk is a good pickup. Honestly, Okay, so I have some friends who are Montreal Canadiens fans. And the pickup of Jonathan Drouin, remember they picked up Jonathan Drouin as well. The pickup of Jonathan Drouin had them going, we're going to win a Stanley Cup again. And I said, no, you're not if you get rid of Alexander Radulov and Galchenyuk. That's what I told them. And because I said, your problem is offense. Your problem is not defense. Granted, Jonathan Drouin helps with that. But if you have Alexander Radulov, Alex Galchenyuk, and you have Jonathan Drouin, those three players right there are pretty devastating to play against. And I think that Montreal can do a good job with him. The question remains, do they have the offensive firepower to support him? I don't know. Too much of a superstar mentality to like have him win you a Stanley Cup, in my opinion. Galchenyuk, having him sign is a good thing. I think it helps you. And Hemsky helps you a little bit too. I don't know. I honestly don't know here. Such an interesting move. We'll find out, but I think the loss of Radulov hurts too much here. Too many defensemen are also being signed. That's how I look at it. Anyway, all right, let's move on. Nashville, another team that's a threat in the playoffs this upcoming year. Nick Bonino signs a 4-year contract with the Predators. Very good play. Very, very good play. Definitely worth having him on your team. Scott Hartnell signs a 1-year contract. Again, another good play. Anders Lindback, decent. Matt O'Connor, again, decent. Pierre Labriere, I have no idea who you are. Scott Hartnell and Nick Bonino, best pickup for the Predators. Really a big threat for the Predators now. Holy cow. Before I was kind of like this past season, I was like, you're just an inconsistent team, right? These pickups help your team a lot, in my opinion. They help your team a lot, and they'll help with your offensive consistency. Good play by the Nashville Predators, but we'll see what ends up happening here. I think players like, teams like the Dallas Stars are going to give you a run for your money, though. The New Jersey Devils, Brian Boyle, former Tampa Bay Lightning, former Toronto Maple Leaf, signs 2-year contract with the Devils. Good pickup. Defenseman Brian Straight, good pickup. Brian Kearns, no idea who you are, and Brian Gibbons. Brian Boyle's the biggest one. Brian Straight's a second good pick as well. But Brian Boyle's the biggest pick here. Islanders, nobody. I'm looking at this list right now just to see. Calvin DeHaan right here. You should sign him. Actually really don't have a whole lot of players to sign. So they could sign other players from other teams, really, is what they could do. This list there needs to be somebody in this list, though, for the Islanders, in my opinion. For you to win a Stanley Cup, you need somebody else. John Tavares cannot win you a Stanley Cup alone. That's how I look at it. All right, the New York Rangers, who actually did some work. All right. So forward David Desharnais agrees to terms with the Rangers. Very good pickup, considering the fact that Derek Stepan was just lost, so they needed a center. Defenseman Kevin Shattenkirk agrees to terms with the Rangers. Man, if you're ever feeling bad in life, just remember there are Capitals fans who bought Kevin Shattenkirk jerseys. Oh man, he was only there for a couple months. Dear Lord. Okay, Kevin Shattenkirk agrees to terms with the Rangers. I knew that Kevin Shattenkirk wanted to come to the Rangers. I thought it was a good move for the Rangers not to shill out a whole lot for Kevin Shattenkirk, and I think luck just came to them, honestly, because Shattenkirk became a free agent, and they're like, hey, we want you, and we're willing to pay you this now. Because now he's a free agent, they don't have to give anything. Good move by the Rangers. Very, very good move, especially with all the defensemen they're losing. Andrei Pavlik, the goaltender from Winnipeg, yeah, he signs the terms with the Rangers. Good goaltender, good backup, in my opinion. He's not going to play more than the King, probably. Good goaltender, though. Cole Schneider, I don't know who you are. And Paul Carey, again, I don't know who you are. Jesper Foss agrees to a 3-year contract with the Rangers. Good move. Jesper Foss is a depth player and a very good player at that. Also, Brendan Smith also re-signed. Not on this list. Let's see. Outside of that, not a whole lot. I think one player they need to keep an eye on is Brandon Peary and Mika Zibanejad. But I can understand potentially wanting to get rid of them. Anyway, good signings by the Rangers. Ottawa Senators. Nate Thompson, former Anaheim Duck, signs with a 2-year contract with the Senators. Good pickup from the Senators. I'm sad to see him leave from my Anaheim Ducks. Tyler Randall signs 1-year contract with the Senators. Decent pickup. Eric, I don't know how to say your name. Signs 2-year contract. I don't know who you are, so I'm just gonna assume that you're an AHL sign. All right. Philadelphia Flyers. Goaltender Brian Elliott signs a 2-year contract with the Flyers. You really screwed up Brian Elliott in Calgary for you to get signed to Philadelphia. Oh, man. Philadelphia might be a better fit for you, honestly. You might actually get your skates back under you there, too. Mike Viccioni, and Corbin Knight, Vil Veroni. Brian Elliott's the biggest sign here. They need to figure out who else they want to sign, though, because Philly has some work to do. Pittsburgh. Yay, Pittsburgh. All right. So goaltender Antti Niemi signs with the Penguins. Used to be in Dallas, if I remember correctly. Was like a backup goaltender for them. Former San Jose Shark. Signs with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Good backup pick, I think. But I wouldn't expect him to like carry your team or anything. Matt Hunwick, decent pickup. Justin Schultz, decent pickup. These players, I have no idea who you are, and I don't know who these players are either. Niemi is probably your biggest sign. With the lack of Fleury, that's your biggest sign if you're Pittsburgh. San Jose, Joe Thornton returns with a 1-year contract. Actually kind of surprised by this. I would have thought that he would have gone to a team that would be more of a Stanley Cup contender. Patrick Marleau did with Toronto. Forward Brandon Bolig signs a 1-year contract. He's a former Calgary Flame. Decent pickup. And I don't know who this goaltender is. Thornton is your biggest sign here. St. Louis. Let's move on here. I don't know what this means. I'm going to open this in a new tab. All right. Who do they sign? Oh, Thorburn, Bennett, and Sundqvist. Okay, so decent pickups. They're all okay. Bennett is a like a depth player, and so is Thorburn. Sundqvist is also probably that. All right. Not quite sure why they just didn't list that out. Anyway, all right. Matt Pekka signs. We're on the Tampa Bay Lightning. I should say that. Matt Pekka signs a 1-year contract. No idea. Dan Girardi, the defenseman that the New York Rangers bought out, signs a 1-year contract with a 2-year contract with the Lightning. Good pickup from Tampa Bay. Goaltender Michael Lehtinen signs a 1-year contract with the Lightning. Man, Tampa Bay's gonna have goaltending issues ever since Ben Bishop left. Chris Kunitz signs a 1-year contract with the Lightning. What a good play from Tampa Bay to sign him. Alex Gallant signs a 1-year contract with the Lightning. I don't know who you are. Matt Bodie, decent pickup. Jamie McBain, decent pickup. Don't know who you are and don't know who you are. Biggest pickup is Dan Girardi and Chris Kunitz. That's my thing. Or my opinion. Toronto. Toronto doesn't really have a whole lot to do. They just have to play with their young team to get them experience. Goaltenders Curtis Michelini, Garrett Sparks signed 2-year contracts with the Maple Leafs. My guess is this is a depth move. Ron Hainsey signs a 2-year contract with the Maple Leafs. Whew, good pickup. Or good signing, I guess I should say. Dominic Moore, the former New York Ranger, former Boston Bruin, signs a 1-year contract with the Maple Leafs. Very good pickup. Very good center for you. Good depth center at that. Colin Green, Chris Mueller, and Lo Verde. I don't know how to say your name. My guess is you're all depth players. Patrick Marleau signs a 3-year contract with the Maple Leafs. Very, very good pickup. And Zach Hyman agrees to terms. Good pickup. Or a good signing, I guess I should say. Patrick Marleau is your biggest pickup, I think. Maybe Dominic Moore. So yeah. One of those two. I think it's Marleau. Moore is a close second. All right, let's move on. Vancouver. Michael Del Zotto signs with the Canucks. Decent pickup. Sam Gagner, decent pickup. Anders Nielsen, very good pickup in my opinion. Alex Burmistrov, good signing. Very, very good signing. Patrick Weircoat, I don't know how to say your name. Decent pickup, I think. Anton Roding and Joseph Labat. I don't know who you two are, so I'm going to assume you're depth players. I'm going to say it's a combination of Nielsen, Burmistrov, and Del Zotto, and Gagner. Those 4 players really are all equal. Good pickup from Vancouver. Again, what are you going to do with goaltending, though? All right, Vegas, the team that is such a pain to watch. All right, the Golden Knights signed goaltender Oscar Dansk to 1-year contract. No idea who you are. Depth goaltender for sure. The signed 6 free agents. All right, let's find out who these people are. Goalie Maxime, defense Brad Hunt, Chris Costo, Stefan Matteau. Ooh, they got Matteau. That's a good pickup. This guy right here. Yeah, Matteau is the biggest one here out of these signings. I'm not quite sure why they put it in this thing and not just list them out. All right, Golden Knights signed Oscar Lindberg. Good pickup. They drafted him, but it's a good thing they signed him. And then Golden Knights signed Timu Pulkkinen. If you remember me last time saying I'm not quite sure if this is a good move or not, I'm starting to think this is actually a pretty good move. Good signing, young player, good move overall. Again, I don't know what this is, but they keep trading their players away, and it's really irritating to watch. All right, the Washington Capitals. Oof. The team that just loves to play hockey but doesn't get anywhere in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Such a loaded team, but they just don't get anywhere. It's really irritating to watch sometimes. All right. Brett Connolly resigns. Good job. Kuznetsov signs. Woo! Evgeny Kuznetsov. That's a pretty good signing. John Albert. I have no idea who you are. Devontae Smith-Pelly. That's a pretty good signing as well. Burakovsky. It's a pretty good signing. Anthony Peluso. Don't know who you are. Travis Boyd. Don't know who you are. Grubauer signs with the Capitals. Okay. Interesting. I think that man, Kuznetsov is probably your biggest signing. Smith-Pelly's a good pickup as well. And also Burakovsky. But Kuznetsov's your biggest signing, in my opinion. Loss of Shattenkirk is a big loss. So. Let's see. Winnipeg, Steve Mason. Good pickup. Actually, one of your... I mean, for losing Andre Pavlik, that's a good pickup. Scarbosa. Kulikov, that's a good pickup. Robinson, don't know who you are, and Schilling, I don't know who you are. Steve Mason and Kulikov are your biggest signings here. And that is it. That is all of your that is all of the free agent signings up to this point. It's all the little intricacies. All the little intricacies of the free agents here. All right, so before I leave this page, we're going to go through winners. I'm just going to look at the team and say winner or loser. Winner being someone who signed who is doing good work to sign good players for their team. Anaheim, winner. Arizona, winner. Boston, loser. Loser for Boston. Sorry, my voice cracked, so I had to reemphasize that. Buffalo, loser. Calgary, loser. Carolina, winner. Chicago, winner. Colorado, winner for what they can do. Columbus, loser. Dallas, major winner. Detroit, I'll give them a winner for where they ended up last season. Winner. Edmonton, loser. Florida Panthers, winner. LA Kings, winner. Or I'm sorry, loser. Minnesota Wild. I'm on the fence with them, but I will go ahead and give them the loser card. Montreal. We're gonna go with winner on this just for Jonathan Drouin, even though he's not on that list. Nashville Predators, major winner. New Jersey Devils. We're gonna go with winner on this as well. New York Islanders, major loser. Rangers, winner. Actually, I should say major winner for Kevin Shattenkirk alone. Ottawa Senators, loser. Philadelphia Flyers, winner. Pittsburgh Penguins, loser. San Jose Sharks. I'm on the fence with them as well. It's kind of a win-loss, but I will go ahead and say winner just for Joe Thornton. The loss would be Patrick Marleau, so that's why I'm on the fence with them. St. Louis Blues, loser. Tampa Bay Lightning, I'm going to go ahead and say loser here. While they do get Dan Girardi, they don't sign enough for me to... Oh, and they got Kunitz as well. They don't do enough for me to consider them a threat. Loser. Toronto Maple Leafs, winner. Vancouver Canucks, loser. Vegas Golden Knights, major loser. Washington Capitals. I'm gonna go ahead and say winner for them. Winnipeg Jets. Loser. So, yeah. Interesting thing is the major winners are pretty much out of the West. We'll see if they do anything with that. So, yeah. That is all the free agent stuff I want to talk about. Let us move on. We're going to move on from this, and we're going to talk about something that I really just want to talk about, since we have a retirement coming that happened here. Rangers defenseman Kevin Klein retires from the NHL. 32-year-old had 154 points in 12 seasons with New York and Nashville. Overall, I know a lot of people, first of all, a lot of people really who were on the New York side did not like Kevin Klein. I did. I thought he was a good defenseman. I don't think he deserved the hate that he got. Girardi, again, one of those players I don't really think he deserved the hate he got. Good players overall, in my opinion. Sad to see him retire, but for the New York Rangers, this is good because they can move on and they can sign new players like Shattenkirk, and D'Angelo, and they can bring in other players. It frees up their salary cap space a lot. So this is a benefit for the New York Rangers. But I also have to say, I feel bad, or I'm sad to see him leave the NHL. I think he's a good player, and I think he still had enough in him to play a couple more seasons. So he spent 4 seasons with the Rangers. The past 4 he was with the Rangers, and he was selected by the Predators in the 2003 draft, and was with them from 2005 to 14 before he was traded to the Rangers. So he said, "I would like to thank both the Nashville Predators and the New York Rangers organizations for giving me the opportunity to fulfill my dream of playing in the NHL. Thank you to the fans of both cities for their appreciation. I couldn't have been happier to play in front of you. I will miss all the friends I have made along the way, from the staff to the guys I've played with." Here's his stats here. "I'd like to thank my parents for everything they have done for me and for their constant love and support. Most importantly, my wife Jody and our boys, Joseph and Oliver, who have sacrificed the most over the years. I'm looking forward to many great years with my extended family." It's sad to see him leave, but it's understandable. You had a great career, Kevin Klein, and major props to you for playing so long and having a great career in the NHL for two good organizations. Good job, Kevin Klein. So he's our the retiree, or the person retiring, I guess I should say, from the NHL that I brought up earlier. And I just wanted to give a little bit of a reference to him retiring. So, good player, sad to see him go, but again, understandable. And yeah, Kevin Klein retires from the NHL after 12 seasons in the NHL. So with that being said, I'm gonna pull this off the screen here, and I'm gonna go into big mode here. My question for you is, out of everything you've seen today, and heard me say, what do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Feel free to leave that in the comments down below. As always, I would like constructive criticism. That being said, if I would prefer that you actually try and help me get better, as opposed to, just bashing me because I'm terrible at doing a podcast or something, in your opinion. So I would like constructive criticism. If you have any, feel free to leave that in the comments down below. If you like the format, let me know. If you don't like it, if you want it changed somehow, let me know as well. Yeah. If you, again, like I said, if you disagree with something I said, leave it in the comments down below. If you agree with something I said, leave it in the comments down below. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button. It'll let me know if you like this video. I greatly appreciate your feedback. And as always, subscribe if you want to hear more of this content. I know this was a lot to go through, a lot of details, and a lot of it's like trade stuff, and free agent stuff. I don't like to go into the super detailed stuff. I just like to say, is this a good player or not a good player? So, I hope you guys, enjoy that sort of feedback. I know a lot of people can get into the deep numbers and stuff like that, and I just kind of just look at it and say good or not good. That's kind of how I like to simplify it. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Yeah. So that is the podcast for today. Yeah. Next week, I'm not quite sure what we'll talk about. Maybe we'll talk more signing free agent signings and trades, if anything big happens. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what we'll talk about next week. Maybe we'll talk about who I think has the best shot as of right now for playoff success. Maybe we'll talk about that. I'm not quite sure. I'll have to figure that out by next week. We'll see what happens. The league's always changing and moving. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, like I said, and feel free to tune in next week. We'll talk about some more NHL stuff here on the Hockey Sense podcast. So, with that being said, I hope you guys have a good day, and yeah, bye.